What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden, and I told you I'd do an episode on Joe Biden's tax plan. Now, Jeff Stein tweeted about this. You should follow him on Twitter if you can. He works for the Washington Post, which I don't like the Washington Post much, but he does a great job getting you early information on new bills, particularly on spending and economics. So follow him on Twitter. The specifics aren't out, but what they're aiming for in the bill is kind of circulating right now. So I'm going to go over that with you just briefly. I'm not going to go over all of the intricacies. For simplicity purposes, we're going to go over the corporate tax rate, top marginal tax rate, and they're looking at a higher estate tax, which is nice, and an increase on capital gains over $1 million. So they are looking at somewhere in the corporate tax rate is 21 to 28%. Even Joe Manchin said he was okay with a corporate tax rate over 25%. Here's why this is frustrating, because it's now 20% under Trump because of the tax bill that came out in 2017. Biden campaigned on, what was his slogan? Build Back Better? What was the corporate tax rate under Obama? I wonder. It was 35%. So, just so we're clear, he's starting at somewhere between 25 and 28%, Joe Biden, and that's where he's aiming, and the Republicans are going to whittle that down to just barely over what Trump already did. So you can expect the corporate tax rate to go from 21 or 20 to 22%, and they'll call it a frickin' victory. So this is embarrassing. But I am glad that they're trying to up corporate taxes. I mean, it could be worse. Could be not included at all, I guess. But, the top marginal tax rate. Now, most people don't really quite understand what the top marginal tax rate is. Now, the top marginal tax rate is the highest income bracket, and it's only taxed to income above a certain level. So there are super wealthy people like athletes, actresses, and actors, obviously hedge fund managers, Wall Streeters, politicians that make enough money per year that over a certain amount of millions, let's say what it actually is, I think is it's $5 million a year, that every dollar you make above $5 million in that year is taxed at that rate. But everything below that $5 million mark is taxed at a normal income bracket range. So that's what a top marginal tax rate is. And right now, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's $5 million before you, in a year, you have to actually make before the top marginal tax rate kicks in. And to put that in perspective, it's such a high tax rate, it's such a high income, that most professional athletes don't even qualify for the top marginal tax rate. So only a handful of professional athletes even qualify for it. This is mostly a tax on just CEOs, hedge fund managers, and people that make money hand over fist. So what he's talking about is a 39% top marginal tax rate, which is exactly what it was under Obama. And this, people will go, well, that's pretty good, it's going up again. But I'd like to counter with, it was 94% under FDR during the golden age of economics. And during times of strife within the country, he actually believed in it being 100% over, and actually it was 100% for a certain amount of time right after World War II to help the economy get going. So, and that's when it worked very well. Eisenhower had it at 91%. JFK had it at 91, and then he moved it down to 70%, but in doing so, he closed all of the corporate tax loopholes and the loopholes that a lot of the rich people were using. So the effective tax rate was actually still higher than the 70%, and it was still very good. It actually maintained the taxes on the wealthy pretty well by closing all those loopholes and lowering the top marginal tax rate. So this is pathetic. Again, if you want to get out of COVID and actually get anything done, and you want to get anything, any money to spend on infrastructure or, whatever, what have you, to get us through this, you're going to have to do better than a 39% top marginal tax rate. And if you want a 39% top marginal tax rate, you better at least aim for a 45 or a 50% one, so it doesn't get whittled down by the Republicans to nothing. So this will start at a 39% top marginal tax rate, and it'll end up being a 31% top marginal tax rate, which, I mean, barely does us any good at all, especially if you don't close all those loopholes. He wants a higher estate tax. Now, again, they didn't specify, Jeff Stein didn't, what that exactly means, so I'm not going to speculate too much on it, but half of America's wealth is inherited, and this estate tax is on inherited wealth. That's why it's called an estate tax, like big house, inherited wealth. So I would love to see that. Those are some of the most useless human beings on the planet, are like the spawn of billionaires who never have to lift a damn finger and are worth billions of dollars as soon as they take their first breath. And then they inherit daddy's tens of millions or billions of dollars and have never actually had to work. And there's a very low tax rate on that money. All inherited wealth should have an enormously high tax rate, if you ask me, 80%. But it's not going to go up very high. Let's just put it that way. Joe Biden has far too many rich fellows around him that have a lot to gain when their parents die and leave them everything. So, and also a lot of Joe Biden's not worth a lot of money, but people like Nancy Pelosi and stuff like that, they would definitely qualify for the estate tax for their kids, and they don't want Joe Biden to do stuff like that. She's worth $140 million. Joe Biden's worth about $8 million, his whole family's worth about $40 million. So, and then the last one is the increase in the capital gains tax. They weren't specific on this. It's currently a pathetic 20%. And for those of you who don't know, capital gains is just money that you make on investments like stocks. So if you don't know this, Mitt Romney makes tens of millions of dollars a year just on his stock portfolio. Now, I believe he's married to the heiress for the HEINZ ketchup company, I believe. It might be Hunt's. I can't remember. It's a ketchup company, and he's married to her. So they're enormously wealthy, and he never lifts a finger for any of that money. Now, of course, he's still, in Congress. He's a senator. But he makes $40 million a year, and it gets taxed at like 19-20%, which is less than the income tax. The income tax is 24 to 25% for you and me. Any impoverished people pay 22%. Middle class people are paying 25, 26%, and in the middle is 23%. So we pay more on our income taxes that we worked very hard for it, $7.25 an hour or $10 an hour than Mitt Romney does on his stocks, where he does nothing for it. So I'm all for the capital gains tax going up. I'm not sure what it was under FDR or under Obama, but me thinks that they'll probably move it it's 20% now, they'll aim for 30 and it'll get to 22 or 23, and they'll call this an enormous victory if they actually get it passed, which that's debatable because they'd have to do it via, they could do it via normal order and try to abolish the filibuster, or this tax plan could be done via budget reconciliation, but they've already shown unwillingness to do another budget reconciliation bill, so I kind of doubt it. They'll probably try to force it via normal order, and it'll get shot down, even if it's ultra anemic. So I'm not getting my hopes up. It would be nice, though, to have the wealthy taxed a little bit more. So that's all I've got for you. Those are the main four taxes I need to see go up a lot if I'm going to give Biden any credit on this. So keep fighting the good fight out there. And the other thing he could do, which will never happen, but I'd like to, recommend it, is while you're doing this bill, why not a wealth tax? Elizabeth Warren is pushing hers. I recently did a video that said that it's impossible. Like, Joe Biden just doesn't have the nuts or the bravado to actually get something like a wealth tax passed in a bill like this. But I would love to see the wealth tax that Elizabeth Warren has implemented. If you want that, you have to try to get Bernie's wealth tax in there, and then maybe you'll end up with Elizabeth Warren's. So his was a stratified wealth tax, and like what it is a yearly tax on wealth for Bernie over $32 million, and it was like 32 to 50 million was a 2% tax, 50 to 100 was a 3%, 100 to 500 was 4, 500 to a billion was 5, a billion to 5 billion was like 6%, and then everything over $5 billion in wealth was like a 7% tax with Bernie. Elizabeth Warren is just straight up, if your wealth is over 50 million, it's just 2 cents on the dollar, 2% wealth tax across the board. So you aim for Bernie's, maybe you get Elizabeth Warren's. Methinks he won't even aim for Elizabeth Warren's. He's not even going to do a wealth tax. But that would be something that would be wonderful if you could put that in here, create a ton of money, and it would only hit the hyper wealthy, and it's overwhelmingly popular. But I don't think he's going to do that because it makes way too much sense for Joe Biden to do it. And of course his corporate masters wouldn't like it. It's a little bit extra money coming out of their pockets. Those billionaires that 50 billionaires that donated to Joe Biden during the primaries would be very angry with him. So keep fighting the good fight, guys. I'll see you later.